Hello and welcome again to Soul GPS. Today I've come to you from my living room. It's a Sunday evening and I thought I'll just sit down and answer some questions that I found underneath my videos. And so here's the first one. Where does the path lead after narcissistic abuse? This question was asked in Polish, so I'm just free translating it here for you. I guess the essence of this question is, where is it all headed? Where is it all leading? Where can I eventually end up? Because as we all know, when you first embark on this journey, it can be very disheartening. It can be incredibly heavy and difficult to find yourself in a situation where your heart is bleeding, where you feel like you're broken up into a million pieces, where it's very difficult to tell what's real and what isn't. Let's face it, it's kind of like reality begins to crumble. And it's hard to stand on your 2 feet. It can be difficult to get out of bed. I remember when I was going through it, it was extremely difficult to come out of bed. I spent 3 months in pajamas. It was October, and by the time I got up, it was like January. So I can absolutely relate to that. And I literally felt as if a neutral bomb just exploded inside of me. And I really did not know who I was. It was extremely frightening. So knowing, like listening to a video like this back then, I think would have been helpful. So I'm glad this question was asked and I'm able to answer it here to you now. Now 5 years after the fact, 6 years actually, because it's now October, and for me the journey started in October of 2016. So 7 years. Wait a second. No, 6 years later. 6 years. So where is it all leading? It's leading to a really, really, really good place. Let's just start with that. It's a good place of self-knowledge and of a different, more holistic, I would say, an authentic way of also knowing and understanding the world. Because, let's face it, narcissists live in a virtual reality bubble, let's call it. It's not the actual reality. Actually, it's really difficult to see reality clearly for what it is. As humans, we have this thing called the brain, which generates the mind field, which is made of a lot of things, but one of the main components of the mind, having a mind, is perception, which is made of filters. So when I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the space on the other side of the camera, I don't see it exactly for what it is because it's going through my filters, right? A bug would see it very differently. It would see something probably more pixelated. It would see, maybe some other creature would see atoms flying. You know where I'm going with this. And not only is it about sensual perception, it's also about mental perception, emotional perception, spiritual perception. It's layers upon layers upon layers. And so when we're spending time with someone who has narcissistic personality disorder, we get heavily influenced by them, especially if you are someone who is highly sensitive and you have the ability to feel other people and tune into other people, and it comes really easy to you. Then you're going to be influenced. There's just no other way around it. And what else happens in these relationships? It's a relationship that is based on a figment of imagination. It's a fantasy. It's a bubble. And it's a very sweet bubble. It's a very seductive bubble, right? It's a place where you feel that you're special. You feel like you belong to someone who seems to have a very strong leader-like way of being. It's very dominant. It's got gravitas. It's got like gravitation. I was gonna say it came out gravitas, but it's a similar thing, right? It's got that pull, and again, if you're someone who is sensitive, if you're someone who's open to other people, if you have a tendency to put other people first, and even if you don't have all of that, but you still are interested in dominant personalities, because let's face it, they're very magnetic, you are going to feel that. And so feeling close to a person like that, and feeling chosen by them, feeling the light of their attention on you, can make you feel really special, and can be very seductive, and can feel very sweet, and can make you feel like you're in this fantasy bubble, right? So I'm basically reiterating what I just said, but what I'm trying to say here is that it's easy to get lost, lose yourself in all of that. And once it all ends, once you realize the truth of what you've been in, coming out of that can be so difficult, because if you're anything like I was, you have lost your sense of self. And for me, it was a series of relationships that led me to that place. And I could say that, I didn't have a very well-developed, strong sense of self, although I felt like I did. But next to a person who was so dominant, I got really swept up. I became very interested, and I wanted to co-create a reality with them, co-create a world with them. And in the process of that, being open to that and merging with that person, you could say, to some extent, I just found that I've lost myself. And when that whole thing comes to an end, when a relationship like that comes to an end, or even if you suddenly wake up to realize that a family member is like that, or your boss is like that, or someone you thought was your best friend is like that, or your child is like that, then because you've invested so much of yourself into that person, it feels incredibly devastating. It feels like part of you has died. It's a very deep process of mourning, and not only mourning that person and that relationship, but also the part of you that believed in it being real. So it's shattering, right? And at first it's very difficult to come to terms with what happened, but it's the prerequisite to moving forward. And the way I typically work with people when they come to me and they tell me their stories, and all of the stories are amazing. They are, all of you are just incredible heroes, having been what you've been through. I'm just full of awe and admiration when it comes to your courage, your strength. You're all incredibly inspiring to me. And when you come in the early period, in the early days, weeks of this, you tend to be feel a sense of instability inside, like you don't know who you really are. So the first stage is to come to the understanding of what happened and maybe why it happened, although that usually the why takes time to answer. We can't just get it quickly. You may pick up a good book about narcissistic abuse, and there are some really great gems out there, and you may read it and feel validated and it will make sense to you, but yet it's still different than actually sitting with yourself, being with yourself, and inquiring into yourself. And especially if you're doing it with the help of someone, whether it's a coach like myself or if it's a therapist. We all have our unique processes in helping you to get to answer that question, why. And where does that lead? It leads to, I like to call them like two parallel paths we walk during this process. One is a path of self-knowing, of getting to know yourself, self-discovery, we like to say, right? But self-discovery almost sounds a little cliche at this point. What it is more is getting to know yourself on a very intimate and intricate level. It's not something that's taught in school. It's not something that's taught by our parents, because most of them, they don't know how to do it. The new generation that's growing up now, they will have some of that, because I feel like the people who are young parents these days, they've done a lot more work than for example, my parents did, because they didn't have the tools that we have now. And they will be able to offer more to their kids, more of these tools. But generally, we don't have it. We did not know how to really discover ourselves. We didn't learn what to look for, right? Because there's so much to look for. As humans, we're incredibly complex. So it's not an easy thing, you know. Where do we start, especially if you find yourself in the midst of post narcissistic hurricane devastation? Yeah, it's like, where do you start? So whether it's with the help of someone, could be a friend, could be a parent. I've heard beautiful stories of, especially between daughters and mothers, really coming close and together after these kinds of moments, where a mother can be really helpful in helping the child, the daughter, come through. But all in all, it's a pretty lonely journey, and it tends to require someone, the help of someone who's been there before. But still, even with that, majority of the path we're walking alone, and it's a windy road. It's full of dark alleys. It's full of places where we may feel like we're done. We can't take it anymore. It's loaded with emotional upheavals, valleys of depression, places where we may feel so lost and in so much pain that it can be difficult to come out of, right, on our own. So I just want to say that up front, that it's a complex and windy road, but it's also, but there are also places, the kind of like, I call them the vista points, where perception clears and we feel ourselves deeply, and for a moment everything makes sense, right? It's something like the light just shines on us and we're like, oh my gosh, now I see why this happened, how this happened, and now what I need to do next. And you can see sort of you have a vision of your future, and you know everything is going to be okay. So I'm here to tell you that everything is going to be okay, and to keep marching forward, to keep walking, putting one foot in front of the other, because things will get better, and it will lead to a greater sense of knowing yourself, and through that to a greater sense of knowing others and the world. Because as I think it was Socrates who said that, or maybe it was, now I'm confused because I just read about it a few months ago, and there was a statement that was written, right, on the Oracle of Delphi in ancient Greece, which stated, know thyself. So I think it's older than Socrates, but Socrates did talk about it during his trial. Maybe that's what it was. So in any case, know thyself, because within you is the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and through this you will know the secrets of the universe. So what this means is that the more you know yourself, the more you'll know other people, because we're built kind of in a similar way, right? If we're not disordered, especially if people, that those who are disordered, it's a little bit more complex. Things don't quite fit right, and unfortunately, bad things can happen as a result if that is not attended to early on. So, and while you're getting to know yourself, you're also getting to know the world. Your perception clears, and you're able to see reality a little bit better for what it really is, rather than for what, not just the narcissists from your family, although they have the biggest impact on our perception, but also all the other ones out there, who have the microphone, who have the camera, who are telling you what's happening in the world, who are trying to influence what you're thinking. There's a lot happening in the information sphere right now, so it's really important to cultivate your critical thinking skills, to look for inconsistencies in logic, to read, to learn about history, learn anthropology, learn sociology, learn psychology, learn anything that interests you, because it will help you to piece together the world more for what it is, as opposed to for what it may appear to be, through particular filter of perception. And it will make you immune to all sorts of mental traps, conspiracy theories, and other kinds of manipulations out there. It will give you a greater peace of mind, and will also create a state of wholeness, of internal wholeness, because as we all know, a relationship with a narcissist tears you apart, right? It creates cognitive dissonance, in which you're seeing two versions of reality at the same time, and they're at odds with each other. One version is version that's a little closer to what you feel, and the other one is a little bit closer to what the narcissist feels. And so if you have a tendency to being highly empathic and sensitive towards those people, then it will create an inner conflict. So coming out of this confusion and heaviness will create a lightness of being, wholeness, greater authenticity, because from a place of wholeness, you will feel more comfortable expressing yourself from that place. And then spontaneity, which is a true gift, where you don't have to second guess yourself, think twice or thrice about what to say, and because how it's going to be interpreted and taken by the other person, how they're going to react and what's going to happen. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just be who you are. And so that's where this is all going. That's where it's all headed. And it will also open up your world to other things, to other passions, to other interests. Because when we're in these relationships, our world shrinks. It becomes all about this person. You know, they take up so much space. They take all of your attention. They live inside your head. So getting them out of your head initially can be hard, because it can seem so quiet and empty and dreadful, especially if you also have lost your sense of self. And let's face it, you're sad, you're devastated, going through a grieving process. So that can be hard, but you will reclaim all of that. You can reclaim all of this and more and more. And also, I forgot to add this one in the Polish version of the video I just made, but you will also get better at choosing the right people for yourself. And you will lose the attraction towards con artists. You'll be able to see them from far away, and they will not be interesting anymore. So lots of gifts ahead. Keep moving forward. Thank you for watching the video. I'd love thumbs up. I'd love a subscribe. Share it with anyone you think may need it. And let me know if you need help. My contact is in the information below this video. There's my website. There are ways to contact me, to work with me. I love working with people who have been through this and infusing them with optimism and hope. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. Bye-bye.